Welcome to our webinar, Smarter Planning, Implementing JIRA Core for Your Business Teams. In this section, you'll hear Radek Orszewski and Rachel Gillis from Aeria Games, who will speak about how they implemented JIRA for their marketing team.
Aeria Games is a leading publisher of free-to-play online multiplayer games, a wholly owned subsidiary of ProSiebensStat Media SE. Aeria Games is headquartered in Berlin, Germany, with offices in San Francisco and Seoul. Then I'll introduce Rachel and Radek.
Hello, I'm Rachel Gillis. I'm the project manager at the creative services team here, which means that our group supports all the launches with the branding and the marketing, and we also support the live games with community outreach and other marketing efforts once the games have entered the market.
Welcome everyone, my name is Radek Orszewski. I'm a head of product release at Aeria Games. I work here together with product managers, project managers, scrum masters, release managers, supporting studio, which launches both PC and mobile games. Our story starts with suboptimal usage of JIRA. Both myself and Rachel joined the company in the phase of its exponential growth. We have many people joining the company, people who never worked with JIRA before, or people who didn't really know the power of customization that it offers. So especially non-technical teams were a little bit left alone, and they didn't really benefit from customization of it. They were frustrated that they were forced to work with JIRA, let's just say in a default settings, instead of really reflecting their ways of work in JIRA. We've been looking for teams that desperately needed help because they were also impacted our work with release. They had problems with conflicting projects. They had problems with really traceability, visibility of what they are working on. We started approaching some of the teams, and basically the news that the JIRA is there, that JIRA can help you, really worked well. Some of the teams actually called us and asked us for help, if we could approach them, if we could try to resolve their issues. One of the stories that we're going to tell you today is about newsletter. As you can imagine, our marketing team is responsible for preparing newsletters, but because these newsletters are usually really content rich, they have a lot of graphics, a lot of animations, some interactive parts, some coupons that you can redeem on our website to enter, for example, a beta phase of a new game. It was quite complex, and initially the teams were working in silos. So every project, every team were basically working with their own JIRA. So in the end, you really had to create 4 or 5 tickets to have the newsletter done. Because people working on newsletters realized in different aspects of their work that it's suboptimal, they approached us if we could actually try to simplify it and fix it. What we did was that we were approached first by product marketing manager, and then gathered everyone who was involved to any degree in the process of creation of newsletter. That means head of localization project managers, technical marketing people, project managers. Here Rachel, responsible for project management in creative services, or people from Loca QA. What we did was we actually closed them in one room together with lots of post-its and whiteboards, and we asked them, could you please draw for us, define for us, how does it actually work? How do you think the work actually flows through the company? And they came with different visions initially. And then we iterated on it and tried to bring a common understanding of what actually is the process. And if we all agree, if we all share the same vision, how the work should optimally flow. Our first let's just say lesson learned from this workshop was that we've built a simple workflow showing where does the requests are coming from and in what order teams should be involved. What was very important for all these teams to understand that behind the business value was fulfilling requests coming from business units. So let's just say producers working on the games who would like to approach a certain group of our players with an announcement about a new game or a new chapter. And we decided that ideally these people should talk directly to marketing, to technical marketing people, because they are the one who can offer like really first-line support and explain what's possible, what's not, what kind of templates do we need, what kind of information we need to proceed with a request. Next in the line is product marketing. One of the responsibilities of the product marketing is providing a copy, so giving a direction and also text for the newsletter, which then goes to localization. As you may imagine, we launch our games in multiple territories and multiple languages, and we want to make sure that whatever leaves the company in a form of newsletter is not just a pure translation, but really localization with the focus on the equal content and equal quality for all the languages. Once this is done, Rachel's teams could step in and basically work on all these assets, work with the copy in different languages, and create all this rich content for the newsletter. So art, creative assets, videos, animation, stuff like that. And in the end, it's given to localization QA. The team is responsible not for local QA only, but they also check the newsletter functionally, if all the links, if all the interactive parts of the newsletter are working well. And then we again approach the business unit, so owner or requester for the newsletter, to show it to him or her. Is it what you want to do? If and when it should be sent out. I imagine that you may be interested how we did it in JIRA. We designed quite long, initially a little bit frightening long workflow for the newsletter because we discovered that not everyone working on the newsletter, so people behind, let's just say, yellow boxes like copywriting or localization or assets creation, they are not always instantly available to work on the requests for newsletter, because they work first on multiple requests for newsletters and also on other types of requests coming to their teams. Because of that, we decided to follow some kind of Kanban principles, and we decided to have buffers between the statuses, so we could see where are requests piling up, if there's a problem with capacity, if there's a bottleneck, and if any team is below the capacity or have multiple requests, so they could actually, let's just say, refine their own backlog, their own queue, and have an educated decision which requests to work on first, because they would have the dates, so dates of the launch, the dates of the let's just say sending the newsletter, and other details in it. As a big let's just say accomplishment here, we figured out that now, thanks to this one, we have a clarity not only for the people involved into the process of creation of newsletter, but also for the business people. So they could easily spot where are the requests and what is going on. Is it in a queue? Is it in progress? They basically reduced the amount of questions that they would need to ask over HipChat. Hey, where's my newsletter? When it's going to be done? So the big sum up here is that instead of 4 or 5 tickets necessary to have one newsletter before, now we have just one, which goes across all the departments, which engages the team for cooperation, which involves everyone equally. And like I said, we have this traceability and clarity of where the requests are.
So then we had a second meet to actually make a customized project. And we had to get everyone in the room and get them together and ask them, what do we need to put into the project? And then they just started listing various terms: file size, territory, language, graphic format. And then we had to sit down and actually figure out how to put these all into the project. The biggest challenge was trying to find common terms, because it turns out that, localization says language, whereas creative services says localized copy. And they were slightly reluctant to actually agree on a term since they were so used to working with their own terms, but we eventually found common terms that would work and everybody agreed on them. And they would work for all newsletter requests across all the departments. Then we had to identify the tasks that were absolutely necessary to keep the number of fields that needed to be filled out to a minimum for the requester and come up with that list. So what came out of it was this customized create issue screen for newsletters. You can see it has 3 tabs. The 3 tabs gather different information. Each one is categorized and specific for each team. We wanted to make it easier for our requesters to provide the right information. So when they create a ticket, we made the first tab general, and it has every single field as mandatory. It's all the information that we must have, or we won't be able to proceed forward with creating a newsletter. And then we've also chosen specific types of fields dependent on this information. So you can see here in the drop-down selection, when you select it, it will give you several types of newsletters. Yes. And this will choose the type of campaign that we'll be running. So will it be for user engagement, cross-promotion? Are we doing launch marketing? This helps us prioritize and schedule the newsletters, since certain ones will get more priority over others. Then we also have select lists, which allow the user to pick and choose the languages. As Radek was saying, we currently support quite a few, in fact, 13 languages with our in-house team. So it's critical we know which languages are needed, otherwise we can't allocate our resources properly. Then we have the other tabs, which have optional information. For instance, the creative tab, which I work a lot with, has all the information the creative team would need. The brief will give direction on style and brand, as well as additional updated assets that we might want to use. The graphic information will vary from newsletter to newsletter, so specific requirements are very much needed. But we've made the fields optional because we want to be as general as possible, since some newsletters need to be very simple, whereas some need to be very complex, and we don't want to force somebody who needs a simple newsletter to fill out all the information. We also knew that this tab would be mostly used by a domain expert, which is either myself or the head of technical marketing, so we don't need to restrict it as severely for those people. Then we have the Localization tab, which provides the information for localization and localization QA. They need style guidelines because when they're translating the text provided, it usually starts in English and then they translate into other languages. And they need to know what is the tone that you want when the translated languages. Do you want an informative and factual tone, or do you want a very catchy marketing message? We also have multiple due dates down here because we have two teams working in this tab and they have separate due dates and they needed to know what their separate deadlines were.
Yeah, the extra benefit for the team is that now they are really empowered to learn more about the process, about the requests, going through different departments. So we help them also build some dashboards. Thanks to different gadgets, they are capable of learning what kind of requests are coming, what kind of type of requests they are working on. Also in terms of iterative approach and improvements, they can also track the lead time to see how long does it take to deliver a newsletter within a certain week. So they can also see what's the impact of capacity in the team on the speed of delivery. What's also really a strong weapon for optimization and further improvements is analysis of how long does the request spend in each status. Is it in a buffer? Is it in an active status? Or maybe certain types of requests land in, I don't know, blocked statuses, and they need any kind of rework.
So another example of customization that I'll talk about involves a project used by one team instead of a product which was flowing through multiple teams. That's the creative services team, of course, since that's my main focus. Since they manage all the creative assets for launches and live games, as well as supporting internal company requests, they really wanted a customized JIRA project because they were getting very frustrated using the general project they had been forced to work in. So we built their own project with first step this unique workflow. It's simple for most requests, as you can see. There's a very straight line where somebody opens a request to us, and then it hits the analysis phase. This actually means that I'm reviewing it as the project manager. I make sure that all the information is included, the directions are clear, that the deadline set is acceptable based on our SLA. And if it is, then we can accept it into our backlog. A designer will eventually move it to in progress. We will deliver it to the requester, and if they are satisfied with the work, they will close it. For more complex projects, however, we require more information, more detailed instructions in the form of what we call a creative brief document. So we added this special loop off to the side where once I've analyzed it, if I say this request needs a creative brief, I can actually request it and it will go into the buffer status, so just as it would with the newsletters. Then there are customized statuses, so the person I've assigned it to can tell me what the status is. Are they writing it? Is it blocked? Is it done? Once it is done, they can send it back to me, and then it'll go through the same workflow that the other tasks all went through. We also created the customization in the fields. The first thing we did was we got the designers together and asked for a list of everything they work on, and then we managed to group those tasks into 4 work types: graphic design, video and motion design, web design, and TV and CGI. And then we made unique issue types for those 4. Each issue type brings up customized fields. So for graphic design, you can see that we have mandatory fields that a graphic designer would need to complete a project. We've got graphic format and max file size. We've also got optional information such as resolution, which is mainly important for printed material, which is why it's optional since we do a lot of web stuff as well. And then we also have the example of the TV and CGI issue type. They also have customized request types, and they have additional customized fields such as target channels, which is very important for television. This allows us to get all the information we need to complete a request instead of the multiple back and forth that was happening where we'd have to go and say, do you actually need a JPEG or is it actually PNG format?
Our advice for the audience, if you're struggling with similar situations or looking for improvements in the same areas, is that we learned that it really makes sense to approach the team or answer to the calls for help and actually work with the team, not for the teams. It makes sense to spend time on all these workshops, brainstorm sessions, and iterative approach because it brings clarity to the team why the process looks like, why it's like this, and that it's also their process. How we do it at Aeria, we have 2 initiatives. One is called JIRA Jedis. As you can see, creative team delivered logo through the ticket that you've seen a moment ago. This is an interesting approach because the people behind JIRA Jedis are not professional admins, part of IT organization. They are just employees who are like really power users of JIRA, who know and want to share good practices. And basically, we're like a group of volunteers who help other teams to really become work in a smarter way and become a satisfied user of the tool. We have similar initiative for the Confluence, which we naturally also use, Confluence Champions. They are focused more on like sharing good practices and structurizing the information across the company so it's consistent and easy to be found for everyone.
And finally, we wanted to show you some examples of things that we managed to deliver much more smoothly and faster. So we have an example of a newsletter that went through the new process for one of our recently launched games, and also the example of a website which we just launched last week, actually, which was requested with the new creative services project.
Thank you for watching Smarter Planning, Implementing JIRA Core for your business teams. If you want to learn more about JIRA Core or begin a free trial today, click on the Try It Free button on the left. To check out the JIRA Core product tour, click the video playing on the top right. Want to hear the next chapter of this webinar? Click to see what's next on the bottom right. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.